Thanks to Utic Camp for inviting me for this little half-hour slot. You seem to be having fun there in the Ukraine. I hope to be able to join you another year at a time. But let's go straight in then. We're going to be talking about client quandaries, the quandaries they give us, dealing with client problems. Those of you who know me, who've seen my different presentations, know that I like to talk about other possible professions to put ourselves in the client situation so that we know we can see their problem from the client's view. So I tend to talk about lots of different professions which have similar problems throughout, so that you can see it from the client's point of view. We can talk about hairdressers, car mechanics, lawyers, restaurants, and tailors. And these are kinds of jobs where, similarly to translators, the client sometimes doesn't know what's involved in the process. They don't know, particularly if you find a new hairdresser, a new car mechanic, you don't know if they're doing a good job. You've never seen them before. That's similar to translation with first-time translation clients. First-time translation clients don't know what's involved in the translation process, so they have a lot of fears, just like lots of other professions. Now, some of you may be thinking that hairdressers and mechanics shouldn't be in this list because, being translators, we should be comparing ourselves to professions such as doctors and lawyers, at least in terms of fees. But what I would say to that is it depends on. I've seen my screen is paused. Sorry about that. So these are kinds of professions we can compare ourselves to. And I would say that when it comes to hairdressers, for example, it depends how much they're prepared to pay, who your clients are. So how do you find these high-paying clients who are prepared to pay for good quality translation, or in this case, good quality haircut? What does a billionaire look like? They smoke cigars and burn money. Well, here we have some examples of billionaires. What do they look like? There's one thing they all have in common, as you can see from these photos, which is they all have bad haircuts. Now, unfortunately for us, bad haircuts, the cause and effect is not how we would like them to be, because you don't get a bad haircut and suddenly become a billionaire. It works the other way around. First of all, you become a billionaire and then you get a bad haircut. I'll explain that in a moment. Like, they tend to have very bad dress sense, and there's a reason for this. Bad dress sense, bad haircuts. The reason is because I'll guide back up if they have questions. And the greengrocers question, all greengrocers, all people who sell fruit and vegetable all over the world have the same question. Just when you go to pay, they ask the same question. What is that question? It is anything else. We can also ask this and say, if you see there's going to be another text coming up, remind them. If there's anything else, send it my way. Ask to see the final text if possible, because the graphic designer may have decided to take out those ugly commas and exclamation marks. Also, they may have put a photo inadvertently with your headline in the wrong place. And if there are no questions, stay in touch anyway on long projects. So that if my mechanic is working on my car for 2 weeks, I like to know he's working on it, not having a beer in the bar next door. So just call them or send them an email every 3 or 4 days saying this is what's happening, this is how it's going. And now, second section, clients' typical fears. Oh, I'm running out of time. Typical fears of clients. We want an exact translation. What's that? Well, for example, Japanese has very flowery language and Singaporeans go straight to the point. It's not the same to translate for a Japanese client as for a Singaporean end reader. So this is something machine translation doesn't get. Can you translate this vodka ad for the Saudi Arabian market? Well, not a good idea. This is because we humans know about taboos, text flow, politeness, style, mistakes in the source text. Transcreation may be much more important than doing a simple translation and what's it for. We like this sentence, don't touch it. What do you say when the client says this? Well, we could say, I like this oil filter. Don't touch it. If you go to the mechanic and say, I've grown very fond of this oil filter, please don't change it. Obviously, the mechanic has to tell them what to do. You don't go to the doctor and say, I like the green pills. I don't want the blue ones. They don't taste very nice. Or the tailor, I like this red shirt and yellow hat. They go well with my green boots. Obviously, it's ludicrous, and it's just as ludicrous with translation. So remember that you are the professional and you have to tell the client what's right and put it in writing. The need for speed, like me right now. Can you translate the text for today? Depends. Is it the complete works of Shakespeare or a cake recipe? How long did it take to write it? I find when I ask this question, it makes the client stop and think, yes, it took me 2 years to write it. Now I want you to do it this weekend. Probably not possible. Give them the urgent fee and you may discover it's not so urgent. And again, as I said before, does it all need translating? Perhaps there are sections they didn't realize doesn't actually need translating. The options I've given before, perhaps a summary, for example. Technofear. What do I mean by that? For example, please send your invoice by post to our head office in Alaska. What can you say if the client says this? You can say, here is my administration fee. Please don't use translation software. Some clients are afraid they think it's the same thing as Google Translate, so we need to explain. We can't say, okay, please send the text on parchment by horse and carriage to this address. No. What we can do is explain that this helps maintain the client's terminology, consistency, less human error, for example, transposing numbers. What about cheapskate translation clients? We have a very low budget. Well, I have a very big bank loan. Try Google. We could consider charging per hour, particularly for revision. After the first couple of hours, the client might realize it's going to be very expensive, or they can do it. Does it all need translating, as I said before, and give other options? Who needs experts? Some people seem to think we can translate it ourselves roughly first, and then give you a terrible translation to review. What can we say to that? Well, do you cut your hair roughly first when you go to the hairdressers? That will be very strange. And then ask for a discount and just tidy it up. Just tidy it up. Do you cook your own meal first before you go to the restaurant and take it to the chef and say, just heat it in the microwave? No. And obviously cheaper. Do you try your own pills first, see if they work, and then go to the doctor? Do you fix your own car roughly first and see if you break it even further before you go to the mechanic? No. It's better to write it well in the native language and let the professional translator translate and tidy up a simple, poorly written text. This is what we need to tell the client. One example, if it's very badly written, is to correct the first few lines and show lots of comments in the margin and just the first paragraph so they can see how terrible it is and ask them, do you really want to continue? And obviously that applies to editing and proofreading. Tidying up rubbish, that's all you're doing, tidying up rubbish as opposed to tidying up a well-written text. Another one, our secretary knows that language and he doesn't like your translation. Well, does your nephew or secretary know maths? Maybe he can do your company's accounts too. No, we can't say that. We have to ask, is he native, experienced, qualified, a professional translator? Because those are the only people who should be checking your work. Second opinions and proofreading must be by professionals. Crowd translation, this was very popular not so long ago with Facebook, etc. What about other professions? Crowd surgery, crowd architecture. Can you imagine lots of people deciding where to do a piece of open heart surgery? Shall we cut on the left? Shall we cut on the right? I've got lots of kudos points in heart surgery. No, it doesn't work like that. Crowd flying. It doesn't matter how many people are doing the job. If they're not professionals, they're not going to do a good job. One or two experts will do a much better job than lots of amateurs. That's important for the client to know. It's quality of the professionals, not the quantity. Everything is marketing. What do I mean by that? For example, WhatsApp groups. My friends in WhatsApp always say, Gary, you write perfect English and Spanish. You're so pedantic. And I said, but they never forget that I'm a translator. I write for a living. You're so pedantic about language. I hear that a lot. I'm not pedantic. I'm an expert. So if this is the impression they have of you, don't worry. That's good, because they will never forget that's what you do. And generally speaking, clients can be afraid of the rise of the machines. Google can translate that faster and for free. Yes. What can we say to that? Perhaps give some back translations and show them that they don't work very well. Machines will replace you. Well, there's the human side. For example, what did you think of our report? It's okay, I suppose. If a British person says it's okay, I suppose, it's probably not okay. But that's something only humans can understand, because we read between the lines and we know what the author's intent is. Machine translation is digital, humans are analog. What do I mean by that? I mean, we may have several short sentences we might want to make into a longer sentence because it doesn't sound right, or vice versa. We might change the text around completely. So does the text flow? That's something which is difficult still for computers to get the hang of. Machines don't get culture shock, as I said before. Will this bikini ad work in Iran? Probably not. Human writers make mistakes, computers don't, although with neural networks these days, computers do make mistakes on purpose to learn from them, but that's not what I mean. I mean things like this. I actually got this from a secondary school textbook I was translating. The Earth is bigger than Jupiter. A machine will simply translate that, whereas a human will point out the mistake, because humans also ask human questions like, what is the text for? Humans write the text for humans to read, so who should be in the middle? Well, obviously a human. I often say machines will replace humans when they can rewrite the Odyssey, because that's what humans do. Well, translators write. We rewrite the text. That's what we're really doing. And that takes a human to know what the human will want to see. And for those who say, we only need a translation, well, you only need someone who understands your specialist profession and culture, writes impeccably in the right register and style for your target readers. Obviously, that's what you do. And I hope you point this out to your clients. Well, thank you for listening. I think I've just made it before the hour mark. Any questions? I don't know if there's time for any questions. I can't hear anybody. I don't know if that's normal.
That's normal. Thank you, Gary. Thank you so much for the presentation. And especially,
sorry it was so fast.
Especially thanks for the practical tips. I think we all loved them. And thanks for explaining how it works, the connection between the bad haircuts and the being a billionaire, because I think all of us were thinking about getting a bad haircut right now. But now we know it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But thanks so much. And I think we should have like 1 or 2 minutes for the questions.
Okay.
Есть ли вопросы у аудитории?
Do we have any questions?
They only have a respect to show to you, because everyone just loved your presentation. Too bad you didn't see the reaction, but it was really hilarious. Thank you so much. And
thanks to you.
Oh, we have one question. Sorry, we have one question now.
Hello, and thank you very much for your presentation and for the humor. I have a question. Do you have the same questions asked by your by the customers that you work with for a long time, or do you have a different relationship with first-comer customers than long-term customers?
Yes, it's very different. Yeah, most of what I've said really today has been for first-time customers, customers who know nothing about translation. It's part of the teaching process. We have to teach our clients what's involved with translation. So yeah, that's a good question. Definitely, the idea is if you follow some of these tips, that gradually your client gets the idea, they know what you want, and the relationship gets a lot simpler. Yes, it gets easier, believe me.
Any more questions here? Not now. So thanks again. Thank you so much. And if we have questions, I think we can find you somewhere and write to you. Thank you.